It's Friday and Games Workshop have blessed us with a Warhammer The Old World article. Now this is probably the last one of the year and it's essentially more of the same. I don't want to get your hopes up too much because it's effectively concept art and a map. However, I think there's actually some big implications in it that we are going to talk about as well. So the article itself is Warhammer The Old World, Orcs, Bretonnians and Tomb Kings. Now these factions we were expecting to see. It's really nice to see Tomb Kings in such a prominent place. Essentially in like the last edition of Warhammer Fantasy, it felt like they were getting phased out. So it's nice to see them officially mentioned yet again. And the first piece of art that they show is a Bretonnian archer, a peasant archer pretty much, wearing red and black, which is going to be important later on. And you know what? Looks pretty standard classic fantasy. I really like it. Very medieval, very grounded, very nice. Next we see a Tomb King chariot. And again, I have the same kind of like feelings and feedback. It's very classic Warhammer Fantasy. There's nothing here that makes me go, ugh. It's all very standard, and I mean that in a good way. It's very classic medieval and classic GW, if that makes sense. The Tomb Kings look how I pictured them in my head from the past. I'm sure if I actually checked out the Tomb King chariot, it probably wouldn't look as good as the concept art, but it looks very nice. A very similar story for the Bretonnian Knight. Check out that guy. Unbelievable. Just very, very nice. I really like the black and red. Gives me that sort of like vampire vibe, even though it's obviously Bretonnians, but it just gives me that undead vibe. Really classic fantasy. I know that's obvious thing that I'm going to just repeat over and over, but that is like classic knight on horseback. Beautiful. And this orc boar boy, it sort of feels like you could have taken this from the box for Warhammer Fantasy. It just feels classic Warhammer Fantasy. I'm boring myself just repeating myself, but that is literally what we see here. It's a classic orc, it's a classic boar, sword, shield, beautiful, absolutely just beautiful concept art. And what I think we might actually be seeing here is potentially, and I don't know how realistic this claim is, but I think this is probably concept art of models that we might see. Now some of them are maybe ones that we're just going to repurpose existing models. I don't know how much they will completely revamp it, but why would you go to the trouble of creating new concept art for stuff that you're not going to like revamp? I don't really know about that. Maybe it's going to go in the books or what have you, but I do actually think that some of these models might be getting remade and we might see new models of them in new, you know, ultra posable kind of positions that, you know, with GW's new quality. I think that actually might be on the table. I think that's actually a very real prospect. And if that's the case, I think a lot of people would be very, very happy. I sort of hope that they don't go like with models with like an insane amount of details, but this sort of feels just about right. Yes, he's a peasant, but he's got a strap for like his quiver at the back. He's got a little rope round his belt, a little dagger tucked in there. Just really, really nice. Like, it doesn't look like they've gone completely overboard with detail for these concepts, and I think that could be very promising for the game. As I said before, and I've said many times already in this video, very classic, and I like that style, and I think that's probably why a lot of people like Warhammer Fantasy in the first place. It's sort of like realistic low fantasy in a way, if that makes any sense. However, they do talk about high fantasy in this, so you know, maybe I'm completely wrong, but that's how I feel about it. Now, the map. Not going to lie, I don't know pretty much anything about this map. I'm not a lore kind of guy, but for you, some fiends you'll see on Facebook, people probably analysing the hell out of that. I'm not one of those guys, but they thankfully tell us a couple of key things about it. So they do say that there are some emblems indicating locations important to dwarfs and greenskins. In particular, up in the mountain ranges that cross the Old World and in the northern reaches of the Badlands. Each icon is just the tip of the iceberg, with a huge amount of work going into developing the character and history behind each and every group and faction. Now this line here, I don't know if it's just GW sort of bigging themselves up, but this makes me really optimistic about the game. It sounds like they're not just, you know, creating a new rulebook and calling it a day. It feels like they're actually pouring a bit of heart and soul into this and trying to make it as big and as good as they can, and I really hope that's true. And then we have some disappointing news. So that's it for now, but stay tuned to the Warhammer community website for more information throughout 2023. So this effectively is the last update of the Old World this year. I don't think we're going to get any more. We're going to go on a very, very quiet period. However, in 2023, they do say it marks the 40th birthday of the venerable game of Warhammer. So we actually should maybe start seeing some proper insights into the game next year. Is that a hint that it's coming out next year? Yeah, like maybe. I don't necessarily think so, but maybe. I think it sounds like there's a lot of work still to go in the game. It would be nice to be given some sort of indication of timelines. Are we still looking at 2-3 years, or could it actually be 2023? It will have then been at least 3 years from when they talked about it the first time. So let's see. Overall, I think the art is looking fantastic. If they do the models in that sort of same vein, I will be very, very happy. You map lore experts out there, let me know what I missed. If there's some sort of new thing on that map, do let me know in the comments below. Overall though, I'm really happy with that. It sounds like they're putting a lot of effort into this game. It sounds like they're not going to half-ass it basically, and I'm all aboard that. Unfortunately, we're not going to see anything more this year, which is really bad timing for me to ask you to subscribe to the channel, because you're not going to get anything this year specifically. But please do anyway, because when we actually do get stuff to talk about it, I will be talking about it. Have a most beautiful day though. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.